Hello, welcome to this video. In this video, we'll be talking about the differences between ChatGPT version 4.0, which was just recently released by OpenAI, and we'll be comparing that to ChatGPT 3.5, which is the version of ChatGPT that we are all used to. And this is a bit of a watershed moment because this is an advancement and this is incredibly powerful, and we'll be talking about the differences between two of these models and how, of course, that can be applied to your own business and your own specific use cases. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing to take a note of is that ChatGPT 4.0 is 10 times more advanced than GPT 3.5, which is pretty crazy. And this is again the evolution of GPT. So we'll talk about some statistics, some data around the differences between both of these versions. So the first thing is that GPT-4 was actually trained on 100 trillion parameters. Now that's a mind-blowing amount of parameters and data. And to give you some sort of comparison to understand how big this amount is, we know that the human brain is the most complicated thing on earth that we know. The brain is very complex and complicated, and the brain actually has about 100 trillion neural pathways, and GPT-4 was trained on similar amount of data that basically you can compare it to the amount of neural pathways in our brain. So that's pretty mind-blowing statistics just to make a note of. In comparison to GPT 3.5, it was trained on 175 billion parameters. So again, huge, massive difference in the amount of data that GPT-4 was trained on in comparison to GPT 3.5. And that interesting data is that GPT-4 has a maximum token limit of 32,000 characters. So basically, around 25,000 words basically. So this is the amount of instructions that you can give GPT-4 at once for it to execute on. In comparison, GPT 3.5 has 4,000 token limit. So that's around 3,125 words of data you can give GPT 3.5 at a time for it to execute on. So this is pretty mind-blowing because it means that you can give GPT 4.0 a huge amount of instructions. So you can tell it to do a whole bunch of stuff and it will be able to take all of that instruction, which is about 25,000 words of instruction, and have it execute on that, and it will still be able to understand the context of all of those instructions you're giving it in comparison to GPT 3.5, which is about just over 3,000 words. So pretty massive difference. Now, in terms of the actual operation and functionality of what GPT-4 is able to do in comparison to GPT 3.5, there are a lot of differences, but there are a couple of ones that really stood out to me while doing some research for this video. And the first one is that GPT 4.0 can understand dialects. So as you know, most languages have different variations of dialect. So let's give an example here. So with English language, we know that when you go to Australia, you have the Aussie accent. When you go to Britain, you have the British accent. When you go to Nigeria, which is where I was born from, you have the Nigerian accent. GPT 4.0 can actually distinguish and understand the variations and differences between all of these dialects of languages, which is pretty mind-blowing. Thinking of all the use cases, it means that you can write, copy in a language, in a dialect that is specific to a group of people. So let's take a look at it in action. So here's we're making a prompt to GPT-4 here. So imagine you're a dialect expert having a conversation with GPT-4. Write a dialogue where you test its ability to respond in different dialects such as Cockney, Southern American, and Australian. So here it is, you're giving it this word here and it's responding in Cockney. So call blimey mate. And this is how a Cockney accent will sound like. And you have the same thing Southern American. You have the same thing in Australian. And this is pretty mind-blowing thinking of all the use cases you can use this for. So that was pretty cool. The other area, and that area of in terms of functionality of GPT-4 is in answering more complex questions. So GPT-4 can act because it was built and fed with way more data point than 3.5, which means that it has access to way more papers, way more sources that it can cite when giving information, which means that it can provide you with more complex answers to difficult problems or questions. Here's an example. So we've told GPT-4 to write an article about the relationships between the decline of bee populations and the impact on global agriculture. The responses should include multiple sources, statistics, and potential solutions to the issue. So again, a very complicated request that we're asking GPT-4 to do. And here's what it's done: is giving us the answers to this question, but this is some of the things that I want you to watch out for. It's citing some sources here. So this is Potts et al. From 2016 paper. This is another paper here from 2017. This is another paper here from 2013. So this is like real proper, writing of a scientific paper and journal regarding this very obviously complicated topic about the decline of bee population. So this is something that GPT 4.0 can do that GPT 3.5 can't do. And again, the answer and the reason is quite obvious, is because it was trained on way more data set than GPT 3.5 was, which means that you can actually write your scientific paper and journals with GPT 4.0 and it will basically fool everybody compared to GPT 3.5 and what GPT 3.5 can do. So, and that interesting use case of GPT 4.0 is that it's way more creative and has way more coherence in doing creative tasks. So remember that in GPT 4.0 it has a longer character limit, and of course it can do way more calculations, way more providing way more words, and you can use this scenario when writing stories or when trying to do creative tasks. So which is a pretty important use case. GPT 4.0 goes a step further by being able to produce poems, essays, stories with improved creativity and coherence. So it's able to like understand the plot from hundreds of characters ago and still retain the context of that plot as you're writing the story, and if it's a very long story. So here's an example. So let's write a short story about a detective solving a mysterious case involving supernatural elements. The story should have well-developed characters, an engaging plot, and a coherent narrative. And this is it. It's writing the story, and the beauty here is that when you're all the way down to the story here, it's still able to understand the context of the story's writing, that it's in a sleepy town of Stillwater, and talking about all the different part of the town, the name of the detective, and different nuanced information. So that's one of the very powerful feature of GPT-4, is that it's able to be way more creative, but not only that, it's able to keep and understand the context of the story, even if the character length is way longer. And ChatGPT 4.0 can handle that. GPT 3.5 can't handle that. So that's pretty mind-blowing use case of this new evolution of ChatGPT. Another interesting use case is its ability to solve way more complex math and science problems. So GPT-4 has just way more horsepower and can solve complex problems like advanced calculus, simulated chemistry and chemical reactions. And here's an example of some of the difficult problems that it can solve. So solve a complex physics problem such as calculating the trajectory of an object under the influence of gravity and air resistance. The response should include relevant formulas, diagrams, and a step-by-step explanation of the solution. And this is it, calculating this obviously very complicated problem. I can't calculate this problem myself actually, but GPT-4 can do that. It can handle almost any complex problem, math, physics, chemistry, biology, microbiology, any of those things, economics. GPT-4 can handle those. Now GPT 3.5 obviously can handle some of those problems as well, but at some point it starts to break. Again, the reason is that the data set that GPT 3.5 was trained on just is not as robust as what GPT 4.0 is trained on. So GPT-4 can handle way more complex tasks way more accurately than GPT 3.5, which is obviously a very good use case depending on what you're trying to use it for. So let's talk about another difference that I really found very interesting, and it's in the area of image and graphics understanding. So you can actually feed GPT 4.0 image and ask it to analyze the image. Now when I'm talking about image, I'm talking about graphs, right? I'm talking about, so you can give it like a pie chart or a graph or some sort of like math sort of histogram or pie chart, things like that, and it will be able to take that information in and actually analyze it on your behalf, which is pretty cool. GPT 3.5 can't do that. GPT 3.5 is mostly focused on text, whereas GPT-4 can actually analyze and comment on images and graphics. So here's an example. So we gave GPT-4 this sort of graph, which is basically the daily meat consumption per person in 1997, and then we ask it, what is the sum of average daily meat consumption for Georgia and Western Asia? Provide a step-by-step reasoning before providing your answer. And this is GPT-4 here. giving us a step-by-step analysis of how it's taking in this data to give us an informed answer. So that is a pretty mind-blowing use case of GPT 4.0. It's been able to feed it graphs, and imagine how you can use this in real time. You have some sort of graphs in your business where you're doing some sort of business analysis, and you have all these graphs that are being generated, and you're maybe struggling to understand or interpret it. You can actually use like a Zapier integration to connect that graph from your business use case into GPT-4 and then ask it in a layman language, in a very simple language, to give you the results. And that way you can also use it is maybe you're looking to invest or trade or do some sort of like high level transactions that involve analyzing complex data from Wall Street or from different companies, and you're not an expert in those types of use cases or those types of understanding or in analyzing those types of data. Well, you can use GPT-4 to do that. All you just have to do is find a way to use to get that information and feed it using API access into GPT-4, and then give it specific instructions on how to understand and analyze that data and what you're looking for, and then it will do that for you. So pretty mind-blowing use cases. Now, just kind of a sideshow, you might be wondering at this point, how can I actually start accessing GPT-4? Well, you can use and access GPT-4 from the same terminal that you've been accessing GPT 3.5. The only difference is that you need to upgrade to the paid version, which allows you to access GPT 4.0. And at the time of this video, the paid version is $20 USD per month. I think it's worth it. So definitely that's how you can use it. The last kind of thought I'll leave you with before I wrap up this video is, what are some additional areas of improvement that GPT-4 can have? Obviously, there are always room for growth and room for improvement, and we'll talk about sort of 4 areas that GPT-4 can improve in. The first one is external integration. So at the end of the day, all of the data set that GPT-4 was trained on are still sort of a limited data set in terms of it's outside of the internet. And as you know, things are moving, things are evolving, things are changing every day, and new information is always being created every day in this world we live in. So GPT can, if it's able to integrate it with to the web through API access or whatever means, and be able to access internet and get access to real-time information, that will obviously improve its capabilities. The second one is reducing hallucination. So GPT has this ability to basically bullshit and be very confident while bullshitting you. And GPT 3.5 had that problem. GPT-4 obviously has this problem as well. Of course, not as bad as GPT 3.5. So this is going to be an ongoing effort, I'm sure, by OpenAI to make sure that AI is not convincing you that wrong information is true. So basically, the idea is that if it's not quite sure about the accuracy of the information, it should be telling you that this information I have maybe a 49% accuracy or confidence level about this information, as opposed to just giving you the information as if it's really true. That could fool a lot of people, including myself. So that's obviously an area of improvement. Also, understanding context as well. So there's always continual work in understanding context. Maybe if you're trying to ask it to tell a joke, or you're trying to ask it to give you information based on a unique scenario, being able to understand that context you're trying to describe, there's room for improvement in there. And that area of improvement is long-term memory. So basically improving its ability to recall past interaction and apply that knowledge to future conversations. So imagine a scenario where you talk to GPT 4 days ago about something, and then you are trying to get it to refer back to that information it gave you and use that in the context of your current question. Then obviously that's a very good use case that will help and improve your experience using GPT-4. But all in all, GPT-4 is amazing. It's mind-blowing. It's something that I'll be using in my own business. I encourage you to use in your business. And if you've enjoyed this video, like, subscribe for more. I create videos like this. My name is David Owasi, and if you are looking and interested in more content around AI, around how you can use it in your business, on my channel here, we talk about that a lot. So anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you like it, again, subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video.